Hey everyone, Ethan with Planned right here again. Doing a video today a little bit different than what I normally do. Normally I'm showing some aspect of a build we're working on or showing a build in its entirety. Something I wanted to talk about that's been popping up more and more. And it's been something that's been common for a long time. A lot of people do this and it's fine, but I want to talk about some of the things you need to be aware of or watching out for. So the topic today is going to be talking about stock house plans. So if you're going to buy or build a custom home and you have that in mind, generally you'll start looking around online or start visiting open houses or other walkthroughs to get an idea on what type of layout or floor plan you'd like, what sort of elevations you want to see, etc. Right? Just get ideas. As you're looking around online, you'll see a ton of websites out there that sell plan sets for custom homes. A full plan set, they say you buy this, it costs you a much, you go build your house. A lot of people have success with that, and it does well. However, there are some pretty big things to keep in mind with these, especially, and what we're mostly going to be talking about here are the ones you just Google and it's made by somebody from who knows where. A lot of these plans may look great, or they look great on the face. And I'm going to show a plan set here in a minute of one that a client of mine, one that he bought, and some nightmares he's going through because of it. So clearly there are some great, or a lot of great experiences people have had with these plan sets. Long story short, first thing you need to remember is that the plan set that was made by who knows who, Joe Schmo in the middle of nowhere, they did not make that plan set with your lot in mind, your situation, your jurisdiction. They have no idea what your area is going to need to get that permitted. Now, that's okay. That's generally fairly understood, and at the end of the day, the person you buy the plan set from, they should work with you to make sure that that gets permitted. However, another thing to keep in mind is you are by no means a priority for this person at all. They could not care less. You've already paid them for that plan set. They'll get to it whenever they get a chance. And that is a real thing. So there's no rush on that for them. If it's something where you're looking to get a house built in a year or so and you've got no rush on the plans, that might be a viable option for you. There's still plenty of headaches involved, but this may work. So I say this because if you go and you buy one of these plan sets, and to give some rough dollar numbers, if you're building a 3,000 square foot custom home, you may be able to find these plan sets online for $2,000. That's awesome. I mean, that's cheap. Normally, I mean, a lot of these, they'll be selling plans for 25 to 75 cents a square foot on these homes. It's standard from my company to other companies in the industry here in the Valley. Most of us sit usually around the $2 to upwards of $3 a square foot to build out. So you can already see that we're 5 to 10 times as expensive as a lot of these cheap plan sets online. There's a reason for that. So when you're buying these cheap plan sets, first off, like I said, biggest issue is going to be getting permits. It's going to end up being a nightmare. You're going to go and turn this plan set in. The town's going to come back and say, yeah, you can't get permits. There are so many things here that aren't going to work. And then you'll have to work with them on that, with the town and with the person that did the plans to make sure that it can be permitted so you can build the home. That becomes a hassle. Getting a hold of the people is darn near impossible. You can fully expect it to take many, many, many months to get revisions done, so that hopefully you can get permits, and then you just have to hope and pray they get it done before your time frame to return or respond to revisions doesn't lapse. Again, this is normal, but you may have better situations where somebody does get back to you quick. Great. I'm not saying every single stock plan set online is bad. There are good ones. Very, very rare. And if you're buying stock plan sets, and I guess a little bit of a cutaway real quick, if you're buying stock plan sets or a pre-made plan set and you're set on that, I'd highly recommend finding somebody in your area that sells stock plan sets, because they're already familiar with how your area generally builds, how they work, how permits go. It's usually easier to get a hold of them as well versus a person from potentially a different country that has no idea what the building code in Maricopa County is, for example, or what the building code in Scottsdale is, etc. So anyways, going back to some of the issues. So just make sure that, you're going to have to expect that they're going to take a very long time to get back to you to make changes if you can get a hold of them at all. You may not be able to. A lot of these you cannot get a hold of them. And so then you're going to have to take that plan set to somebody like me or an architect and hope that they will take the job to make revisions. And if they make revisions to that plan set to make it permittable, usually they have to redraw the entire set because it's not as easy as drawing lines on a PDF. It gets a bit more complicated than that. And for example, me, if somebody comes to me with that, I will say I have to redo the plan set because I'm not going to go through the hassle of trying to draw on a PDF to get things permitted. That is an absolute headache and a lot more work that I'd want to put into it. So it depends on the situation. I'll show you an example in a sec. I keep pointing because I have it open on this monitor and I'll show it in a minute. So that is one big problem with it. Next one is most people aren't satisfied with just plans that they found online. If you're building a custom home, it says custom for a reason. You're going to want to probably make some modifications and make it yours. You want to add on a bathroom, or you want to move the pantry around, or you get what I'm saying. There's going to be some changes you'll want to make to it to make it yours. And every single stock plan set online, if they offer changes, it is again incredibly time consuming, and it's going to cost 2 to 3 times as much as you expected to pay. So now we're talking you're paying $5,000 to $6,000, and it's going to take 6 months. Or you reached out to me, it would have cost you $8,000, and I'd have it done within a couple of weeks. And it would be a very different experience, even outside of the time frames and the money. So something to keep in mind there. The experience is a big part, of course. And this is you see this from realtors, right? When realtors are advertising, they talk all about how personal it is and how involved it is versus going to someone like Opendoor or Zillow, or what used to be Zillow's home buying site. Of course, they don't do that anymore. There's a very different experience there. The realtor generally is going to go out of their way to care for you and make sure that your experience is as good and well done as possible versus some big company that's just going to get you in and out as fast as they can. It's the same deal with these guys. So if you're trying to make it an involved experience building your custom home, your potential dream home, ideally you don't do that with an online company that doesn't know your name realistically. So it's good to work with somebody that keeps you as involved as possible in the building process, is more what I'm saying, the designing process. So, and that's kind of a given. That goes for, that's supporting a local business. It's the same fight there as you're trying to support those that are going to actually care more about you as a person and an individual and your specific needs versus a big company. So if you're going to go and get some t-shirts monogrammed or something, it's better to get that done by Stacy next door than to go online to a big company. So if you're all for supporting small businesses, another thing just to keep in mind there. Now, anyways, what we'll do, there's plenty of negatives like I'm talking about. Again, the biggest reason people look for these stock house plans is, one, they don't really, that they see that as being like the option, the way to go. Two, they see it as a much, much cheaper route, which it sure can be on occasion. If you're looking at just the money side, yes, it can be cheaper, period. Often you'll be paying half what you would pay somebody like me to do it. You're going to have problems with it, and if you're okay with dealing with that, great. I have a very, very good friend of mine who, a family friend, built a few homes for my family as I was growing up, and I've been around him for a long time. Amazing general contractor. One of the best out here is Mark Skousen, Tills Construction. I recommend him to all my clients. He's built some of the prettiest homes I've ever seen. I've done a couple homes with him, and he was buying stock plans from a company, and I'm keeping any company names out of this, just respect for them. And he stopped buying these pre-made stock plan sets and moved over to using me because they constantly had issues with these stock sets. And this is from a company that is local, that sells stock plan sets. And this place is known for there being issues with the plan sets consistently and have a bit of a bad rep from it. But the plans are cheap, so people buy them and kind of have learned to suck it up if they want the cheaper plan set. So he got tired of having to make a ton of revisions and modifications and issues with inspectors, et cetera, et cetera. He just wanted them done right, quickly, and what his clients are looking for. And this is a general contractor who often is buying homes, building them, and selling them for profit. When he's building these spec homes, people that build spec homes generally are looking for the biggest profit margin possible. And if I'm more expensive than a stock plan set and he's still using me, there's a reason why. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through real quick. A client reached out to me. This was end of last year, and he said he bought a plan set. It's somebody that I know a bit personally. He knows my wife's family better. But he said, hey, we bought a plan set for a home or dream home we're building, and we just needed to get a site plan done. The company doesn't do site plans. Another thing to keep in mind, these stock plan set guys, they generally won't do anything, again, specific to your parcel. So site plan is required to actually get permits. I'll show that here in a second. So I drafted one up at the time. He sent that in with his plan set, and it took an incredibly long time for them to even get the plans from this guy. It sounded like it took 6 to 8 months to even get plans. I don't know exactly why we didn't go too deep into that. Usually it's you buy, add to cart, and you've got your plans, so something else is going on there. But this design of the home is gorgeous that they chose. I mean, it is going to be a beautiful home, and I'm really excited for them if they can get it all built. Problem is that plan set was horrible. It was missing so much. I mean, so much to actually make this something that could be built. And they obviously had no idea, because the plan set looks very detailed, looks very good, unless you really know what you're looking for. And plan reviewers know what they're looking for, and man, they can be real mean sometimes. So I'm going to show you here that plan set. Like I said, I'm avoiding saying any names here, any company names, people. I removed all the names from this plan set other than mine and my company, of course. So first off, this was the first page that was submitted for this plan set. This is the site plan. This is the one that I had drafted up. It was very basic. I didn't have a ton of information for it, so I went off what I had. There were a few red lines we got back, and that's what these comments are. So I had dimensions here. For some reason, it was showing them all in inches versus feet, so I had to fix that. The scale I had improper. My title block was bad. So there were a few little things on here. This was one I knocked out quick, and I did miss a couple of points. So they got back to me. The client got back to me and said, hey, we got red lines back for our build. And first off, I was surprised because they reached out to me a few months ago, and I did this, like I said, back in, well, December 21st is when I did this one, is the date. So I did it last year. It took like 8 months for them to get back to me with red lines. Usually it's a couple of weeks, depending on how long the town is. So I was pretty surprised about that, and found out it was because they had a ton of issues with the guy that bought the plans from. It was taking time. So, and just real quick to interject here, this is obviously one specific example I'm talking about that was a nightmare example. Clearly, again, there are better experiences people have had. This is one that is fairly recent and has been on my mind because I'm just wondering where they're at right now, and I haven't talked to them in a bit. So there are better experiences, but this is one of multiple people that have reached out to me saying, hey, we've got a plan that we bought. It's got a bunch of issues. Can you fix it? Most of the time I end up basically just saying no, or when I tell them my price, they have a heart attack and run because it costs 7 times what they paid. But they don't have a plan set that works, so they unfortunately just lost a few $1,000s on that plan set. So anyways, going back to this bit, this was that site plan, like I said. They sent it back to me because I got red lines. I took care of the issues real quick, sent it back to him within like a day or so, immediately. They then had also said, and this was his contractor that reached out to me, another person that I know, family friend, and he said, hey, could you help us out with the red lines on the other plan set? And I said, well, first, no, I didn't do those plans. But let me take a look at them, see how extensive they are, and see if there's something I can do to help or get you guys pointed in the right direction, whatever it is. And I said that because they had told me we can't get a hold of the guy who did the plan set. And even if we did, we don't really want to because it was such a nightmare trying to get anything back. So I said, okay, well, you know what? Let me go through and look at the plans, find out what these red lines are, and I'll let you know if it's something I can help out with, what I would charge. We'll go from there. I told him it is tricky trying to do that without having the actual file to work off of and having to use the PDF, but so I went into the red lines, started to look into them. So first off, getting red lines, it's just issues with the plan set, why they're not permitting. Got to make those changes, resubmit, then you can get your permits. It can take 2 to 3 resubmittals, often depends on the plan reviewer. Red lines are normal. It's not an issue. Like I have red lines here. I'm not going through them all because it's normal. It's not a big deal to get red lines. It's standard. The type of red lines are what matter more. On mine right here was mostly I just forgot to add a couple of notes or whatnot. It's normal. So this is where it got ugly. So first off, to show the house real quick, beautiful. I'll zoom in a little bit, make it a little bit easier hopefully to see. That's beautiful. I mean, all the windows, all the gables and the different elevations. I personally am a huge fan of the staggered roof lines and heights throughout the home. I'm designing that for our next personal home. Very pretty home. Cool little like enclosed sunroom, Arizona room area in the back. Lots of windows, chimney in the back. Very pretty. First thing this is going to be very expensive to build, clearly. Framing is going to be very expensive. So for those that aren't aware, very high pitch roofs like this, which is I don't know, probably a 12-12 or so, much more expensive to build than like a 5-12 or a 6-12 pitch like you see on most tract homes or 4-12. Because if you think about it, if you were up on top of the roof, you probably want to charge more standing on a pitch like this versus something like this where you have good balance. So it is more expensive to build these. So that part's of course more expensive, but outside of that, there's just a lot of intricate framing and steps out and all of that. So that's okay. It's not an issue if it's going to be expensive to build, just something to point out. It has to be very well thought out on how it's all going to be put together. It does come out at a 45 here too, so again, more intricacies. I like that. Our personal home has that design, so that's not a problem. So let's start going through some of these red lines real quick. Clearly on the first page, we have a number here. Again, it's okay. I don't mind seeing a bunch of, you could get a ton of red lines, and it's not the end of the world unless it's just a ton of stuff that should not have been missed. So first off, wind exposure category must be C. Not a huge deal. Most likely this was a cut and paste note that the guy had on the plan, just kind of dropped them on there. I do that with my plans. It is entirely normal. Sorry, is my daughter going at me? So that's fine. That's just something he switches real quick. It shouldn't really affect anything. That's based, mostly that matters for the engineer. So if this was engineered properly, that wouldn't have happened unless they just put the wrong letter there and just have to switch the letter and did the calculations right on the back end. I've had that happen. That's not a big deal. Okay, design loads. Attic's limited storage must be designed to 40 pounds square feet per Queen Creek amendment. Okay, another same exact thing. As long as the calculations were done right and it was a copy and paste note that was missed, that's okay. Not a problem. Same thing here, 40 pounds per square foot. Again, we're seeing that these things are specific to that parcel. Another one, water sizing worksheet. Include all sheets in the construction set in order sequence of the index. So they didn't label the sheets properly. Again, not a big deal. Clerical thing, basically. It's fine. Water sizing worksheet. Accurate index to drawings on the first sheet. That's fine. But the water sizing, it is something that needs to be included. Honestly, it's not the end of the world if it's missing. Not every jurisdiction requires it, so a lot of the time when plans are submitted, it happens with us too. Submit plans, they'll come back asking for something like that, or for the gas. Not everybody requires it, so it's not a big deal. I don't really mind that. I'm not saying it's a problem. It does need to be done, though. Provide area patios and entry overhangs. Not a big deal. So far, these ones right here and on this side, super easy to fix. Adding in the water sizing, it's unfortunate that that was missed, but it's okay. Not a big deal. That can get added in and be done within 20 minutes. Provide height dimensions at the roof lines. Indicate all materials used. ICC evaluation report for all materials used. Exterior wall covering, anchoring method, backing. These are big ones already. There's no reason for this kind of stuff to be missed, to not have labeled the height of everything or what's being used on the home. That's a common sense thing that's on every single plan set no matter what. So again, a lot of these things can be overlooked and missed on submittal the first time. Not the end of the world. This one is a little bit disappointing though. Add a chimney note. That's okay. Not the end of the world, but this kind of stuff should have already been on like a copy and paste note. So transparency on my work, I have a couple of different note pages and detail pages that I basically copy and paste to every single plan set and make revisions as needed based on the jurisdiction. That's usually how these are done. So they should have something like that. It looks like they may not. Which is a little odd. This kind of stuff, talking about fireplace chimney must terminate at a certain point, yada yada, usually it's part of your copy and paste notes. So kind of weird that that's missing. Okay, nothing here. All right, we got one here already. So provide a soils report. Note that structural calculations must be based on the soil bearing pressure stated on the soils report. So full transparency again here. This is for Queen Creek. Queen Creek lately has been very, very, very challenging to get stuff permitted through. They have become very nitpicky, especially a certain individual. Now, it's not necessarily a bad thing. I'm really grateful that they really care about what's getting built in Queen Creek. That's a good thing. Some of the things they ask can be a little bit excessive, so we are going to see a lot of red lines here. Anyway, so soils report, that's kind of unfortunate. We don't really run into needing to turn in soils reports very often. When you do, it can often run a few $1,000. It needs engineered, so that's too bad. Sometimes we can kind of convince them that it's not needed. So note in the drawings, allowable soil bearing pressure. Footing, change that note as well. So those last two are just notes that I guess they're all kind of notes that need added plus the soils report, which could be a kind of a big deal. Not an issue for this designer necessarily, but unfortunate for the client. Show required hold downs, required forces as specified on engineering lateral design for braced walls, shear walls, etc. All plate. Okay, another note that's missing about the plates. Another note missing for foundation. Another note for foundation. Another note for area floor for use for parking. So again, basic notes like this that are missing. My notes pages are 2 full pages with multiple columns and very extensive. There's a lot of information. That's all missing. Not good. That should not have been missed. Another huge problem, shear has not been done. Any shear wall, shear calculations, hold downs for that. That's a huge problem, and that is done on every plan set, and I have no idea why that's missing, even if this is a copy and paste plan set that's sent to everybody. So that's a little concerning. That is actually a pretty decent amount of work. And usually, depending on the size of the home, that gets actually done by an engineer. This one, I would end up sending this to a structural engineer for sure, because it's pretty complicated. So that's a problem. That should not have been missed. Wall bracing, same thing. Braced walls are missing. Basically, what a braced wall or shear wall is, they serve the same function. They prevent lateral load. So you guys there was a video going around on Facebook for a little bit of a house being built and the whole thing was like falling over. That's what happens when you don't have accurate or proper shear walls or braced panels cutting down that lateral load. So wind's blowing, it's going to push the whole house over. It's an exaggeration. There's more that goes into it, but to keep it simple, that's basically what we're looking for. What that entails is big, like 3/8 inch, half inch, whatever it is, OSB, like plywood panels on the sides of the home at certain locations that are anchored to the foundation and to the roof. It basically is there to strap the foundation to the roof in one solid piece. Very, very important on every build, and they didn't put anything on here for that. That's an issue. Stair requirements, they didn't show any details for how to build stairs at all. No notes for stairs, anything, even though there are stairs. That's a problem. That's common sense and should be there. Again, wall bracing. Energy efficiency, this is all note-based things that, again, they didn't include any notes on the plans. Fireplace, more notes, not included on the plans, and a detail for the fireplace that should be there. More notes for the bathroom, for shower and glass, etc. He has no notes. There's no notes. The notes that are here are almost nothing. They have here wall bracing supposedly is there, but they don't have, this is not sufficient. So again, still an issue. Okay, nothing on this. Oh, yep, there's one right there. Attic scuttle opening on the plans. Yep, so he doesn't have anything to access the attic. I don't think that's a big deal. That's pretty easy to add in, so I'm not going to fault him for that. That's fine. Again, plans, and first off, just kind of backing up a little bit, looking at this looks very detailed. Looks like he's got everything, and anybody who doesn't do drafting or plan reviewing would look at this and say, oh yeah, no, that looks awesome. I got what I paid for. Okay, at the top here, attic ventilation calculations. They didn't do anything for attic ventilation. That's a problem. That is something that should be there. They didn't have the slope for all roof planes. I mean, there's nothing, it looks like they don't have it noted for this middle one here. That's a little odd. So missing the slope, not good. Okay, it's 14 by 12. Yeah, it's a very, very sharp pitch. So this is a common sense thing that needs to be on all plans. It's trickier to do. It can be. So anyways, not good that that's missed. It's not something I would miss. Okay, nothing on these. Indicate drawing a note. Thermal insulation meets the energy requirements. Yep, they didn't really do anything specific for insulation noted on the plans. Again, should be on plans. It's missing. Nothing there, nothing there. All right, spray foam insulation, again, didn't do anything for insulation. No R value shown, not showing what's gonna be used. If they said spray foam, so they said spray foam, but they didn't give the ICC report number. Not a huge deal, that's an easy fix, but still not really specifying what the R values are that are required for this home. Okay, here, openings, a note that's missing, just a very simple door note that should have been copied and pasted and wasn't. All the load, structural support system. So this is one of the biggest. There are three huge issues with this plan set that that frustrate me and make me feel really bad for my client, really bad. One, there is so little information on how this home is actually being framed, or information that's required, and they caught that and really called it out. Layout and identify structural support systems, including girders, headers, beams, rafters, posts. Complete floor and roof framing plans. Specify all the size and spacing of all members. There's just not much information here. I mean, pre-engineered wood floor truss is great. What's the thickness of those? It's good to know that. Because the 24 inches is going to be at every 24 inches is how they're spaced, I'm assuming. They weren't very clear. Oh, never mind. They're saying they're 24 inches tall spacing per truss designer. Yeah, that's not going to really work. We need to actually know what the spacing is. They have some header sizing. Anyways, based on the red lines, those review comments, we're missing a ton of structural information. So that's a huge problem. Out of the 3 issues, that's a big problem. Second one that we've already talked about, I guess the first would be the lack of notes. Very few notes, tons missing. The third one is electrical, and I'll talk about that here in a second. But anyways, more information here. Still very little information on how this is going to be attached properly. There were very few details they even had on the plans here. We'll see if there's more later on, but 6 details for house is complex. That does not work. We should have a lot more details showing how this place is put together. Going down, okay. More framing. Okay. It's all pertaining to that old one. Okay, and that was the end of the plans that they bought. So again, almost no details showing how the house is put together, not at all sufficient. There needs to be structural engineering on this home, period. So they need to hire in a structural engineer, which they're not going to... I guess a lot of the pre-done plan sets, they'll have it pre-engineered, and so it's ready for you. Great. They didn't bother with that here. It's needed. There's very little information showing how everything's being put together, which is a little worrying. Queen Creek knows that. That's why they called it out. We need more information. So electrical. There is no electrical. No mechanical, no plumbing, no gas. That's kind of a big part of a plan set. It's not just the bones of the building. That's a huge issue. It's completely missing from the plans. So they had to go to another person to try to get the electrical done for the home. That person did the electrical. All they did was show a layout. It's missing so much information on here, unfortunately. I'm not going to point fingers at this company because they had to try to pick up these sloppy seconds from this company, and they had very little information to go off of. And this also is not their expertise. This isn't something that they regularly do. So I'm not even going to read through all these. Just know that there are so many notes here for electrical that's missing. As you can see here, it's that thing's full, and then there's still a button to keep going, keep reading even more issues. It's 3 and some. Another one, 2012, it's not noted that it's meeting code. A smaller one, provide receptacle outlet in hallways 10 feet or more. They didn't have outlets at all in the hallways. Okay, that's an easy one. It needs to be done. Lighting outlet. So anyways, this is it for the electrical. So this is the second floor, first floor. There's not enough information here. You can't build a house with this. You need electrical load calcs, you need the panel schedule, and a lot more information in here. You need to have often the plumbing, which we showed earlier, the water fixture calculation. You have to have a waste isometric showing how the waste for plumbing is going to be taken out of the home, where it's going, and what size piping to use throughout it. Gas, same exact thing. If there's gas on the property, which there may be. Oh, there is. Gas fireplace, it shows right there. But we don't really have any information on how the gas is provided, if it's going to be... We don't know anything. There's nothing here. I missed this one too. Mechanical plan, yeah, exactly. There's nothing for HVAC at all. HVAC is usually pretty simple anyways on plans. Most of that's figured by your HVAC technicians while things are being installed and shown to the inspector. Can usually get away with that. Sometimes they do require, though, to get it all mechanically engineered, which is going to be all the calculations for if we have enough cooling for the home based on the units that are being used. But yeah, there's no information here really on that. I know the video is getting long and it's more me talking and kind of ranting for a bit, and I apologize for that. I'm going to pull up a little sample project quickly, see if I have one that might work to kind of show. Okay, sure, yeah, here's a smaller sample project, one that I did earlier this year. This is an electrical plan. This is a complete electrical plan that was permitted for, I think it was Pinell County, and they're easier to get things permitted through, so there may be stuff missing here that there probably is stuff that Queen Creek wants on top of what I have here. So, but you can already see, first off, load calculations, panel schedule, fixture count for the water fixture, waste isometric. They didn't have gas on the property, so we got to skip that, but more details, installing the electrical panel, where that's going, one line diagram. These are all needed for every single plan set. Well, just about all of them for every single plan set. I mean, you don't need this, so there's no island. Waste ISO is not needed for every jurisdiction, but most. Fixture calcs, not everything, not every jurisdiction, but most. And then on the plans themselves, we've got HVAC registers of the vents noted, like 10 by 12, 12 by 12. Attic access is noted, air return, other little things. I mean, toilet 15-inch clearance to center minimum. That's standard. Noting that the dryer is going to be vented to the roof. It's very simple. So a lot of these are really simple things, but missing from this. So we can already see this compared to that and the difference. So big difference in what actually would need permitted. And this is dropping, this is easy to do. Anybody can do this. You can do this yourself. I mean, technically the entire plan set you can do yourself if you know what you're doing and get it permitted. That's the beauty of Arizona and some other states. But yeah, this does not have enough at all to be permitted, unfortunately. So again, just one of those things. They have to have more information. In the stock plan sets that you buy online, very rarely include all of this. Now, again, a lot may, and if so, wonderful. You're still not going to be getting it permitted first run, and you're going to have to work with the company to get things changed regardless, because every jurisdiction wants something different. But yeah, I'm trying to see if we have, yeah, so framing. Just to show briefly framing how different this looks, the permitted plan set versus that. Not very little notes. It's just different. So again, I'm not going to go deeper into the difference between a good and a bad one. I just wanted to point out more the bad than anything, just to really help everybody understand. And I'll close this out now here. Go back to me. Just to kind of help everybody understand that stock plan sets are a great option if, one, you know what you're doing when you're building, two, you're in no rush to get this built, and three, you can get the company to respond to you. If that's the case, great, you may save a couple $1,000s on a plan set, for sure. But those are some really big drawbacks that just do not work for the majority of people. Ideally, you work with a draftsman. So this plan set, again, they came to me and asked for me to take care of red lines, and I said I can. However, I will have to redraw the plans from scratch and use an engineer. Period. There's not really another option. There are so many things missing here. For me to go in and just start adding stuff on top of the PDF would be a lot of headache, mostly because it's kind of a pain to adjust things in a PDF. And I obviously don't have their base files, and even if I did, it's probably not in a file format compatible with the program I use. So that is something that we get approached with pretty often. People will bring a plan set to us and ask us to make revisions. We can do that, but it does involve redrawing plans. So you double pay for plans almost every time. So the best thing, what I recommend to people, if you're looking to build a house, you found a plan set you like online, and I do this with a lot of clients. I think I have a half dozen right now, new builds, who every single one did the same thing. They found plans they liked online a lot, maybe two, and they want to mix and put them together. So they come to me and say, we like this, we also like this, let's make this one happen. We draw the plans all fresh for them. You get, of course, this impartial plan set as I'm working on it. You also get the 3D renders that I show often on the Facebook page and on our website. So that just allows you to be able to be really involved with the build process, which is a huge deal, because obviously that's something you have no say in at all when you're buying a plan set online. Again, that's okay. Not everybody needs to have that much involvement and just want something built quickly. But there are some serious drawbacks to these cheap plan sets you buy for $1,000 or $2,000 online. So just something to be aware of. I said it many, many times. I'm not saying that this applies to every stock plan set and company. There are good ones out there. They're still in business for a reason. If they were all as bad as something like this, they wouldn't probably be in business still. This company, I couldn't find a ton of information about them online. They may not do very much work. It wouldn't surprise me with this. Their design and eye for design is incredible. They really designed a beautiful home, but they really need to figure out what can be built and what the jurisdictions need. So if you're looking to get something done right, planned right, if you're looking for more involvement in the process, you really want to design your own home but don't know how to do it yourself, that's where we come into play. Of course, this is our new build side, which is absolutely what we love and do the best on. That is our bread and butter. We do the remodels, we do the additions. Of course, you can't buy a stock plan set for remodels or additions, so come to us for that too. We're happy to help. Anyways, here's my rant. It probably lasted a little longer than it should have, but I just want everybody to be very aware that when you're looking to build a home, be cautious of stock plan sets online. They're not always going to be a good situation, and it is worth paying a little bit extra, because at the end of the day, sure, a plan set for a big custom costs you $10,000 to $15,000. The house costs $1 million to build. Your land, your house, it's $1 million plus nowadays, pretty often. I know that because I'm looking. $10,000 to $15,000 versus $5,000 and a lot of headache. That extra 10 grand is absolutely worth paying. Or, well, and that's on the high end. Usually it's a much smaller gap than that. So pay a little bit extra, support your small local businesses, and try to be as involved as possible when designing your home. You don't want to make compromises unless you have to. So don't compromise. Make sure that your money's counting when you're spending that much money. So you get what you pay for. That's the gist of all this. You get what you pay for. We all know that. If you have any questions about something like this, any comments about it, even if you disagree vehemently, tell me. Let me know. I would love to get more input on this as well. I have not bought from a stock plan company, so I don't know exactly how it all goes. I just see mostly the negative from clients or the positives I read about online. So my knowledge and what I've seen, what I've been exposed to, is much more limited than some. So anyways, let me know if you have questions or comments about it. Otherwise, again, this is Ethan with Planned Right. Hopefully you learned something. I know this isn't something that most are going to sit and watch and listen to the whole time, and that's okay. But if you did, I definitely would appreciate hearing about it. So anyways, have a good one. Appreciate it. Ethan with Planned Right again. Take care.